My guest is Fiamma Nirenstein, Italian-Israeli journalist, author, and former member of the Italian Parliament. Fiamma, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about the current status of relations between the European Union and Israel.
Well, look, I think about two most contemporary things. One is the speech that Abu Mazen gave just a couple of weeks ago at the EU Assembly. Unexpectedly, even if he spelled out the most outrageous blood libel that can be, he said that there are Israeli rabbis that push the settlers to poison the waters of the Palestinians, which is an ancient blood libel of the 14th century. You know, just one of the most anti-Semitic things that can be said. Nobody said a word. Nobody stood up and, in outrage. Nobody went out, and at the end, he even received a standing ovation. But the other things I have in mind is the recent document of the Quartet that the European Union is part of. It's a good document. This is a document where, first and foremost, the first point, nobody expected that. It's really a new situation. First and foremost, what is underlined is the attitude of the Palestinians toward the peace process. And it says that terrorism and incitement are a big obstacle on the way to peace. Afterward, what is spelled over there is the same old point about settlements, which is the fixation, I would call it like this, of Europe. Europe always goes back to this point. Settlements are the main obstacle to peace. Settlement must be condemned. Israel must stop building, and that's a mantra that the European Union repeats, votes for, and has put all of its nation together in this agreement that even brought to a statement which sounds quite outrageous to an Israeli mind, and it is the labeling of the products of the settlements beyond the Green Line. Still, we have two kinds of attitude nowadays. One is incredible sympathy for any positions of the Palestinians. The Palestinians come and say, recognize the Palestinian state. The European Union does it, even without thinking, in a way that always seemed to me either light or without any sense of responsibility toward the gesture that had been doing in this case. On the other side, there is an enormous amount of positive relationship between the European Union and Israel, which are made out of trade agreements, military agreements, security agreements, and also a regular come back to the declaration that anti-Semitism is unbearable for the European Union. So at this point, I would say that there is a double way of considering Israel. On one side, it's a complete loss of understanding for the Israeli politics and situation. On the other side, an amount of a relationship that could even develop into a positive direction.
Regarding this new document from the International Quartet, there's talk now that Abu Mazen or Mahmoud Abbas, the PA president, has broken off contact with the Quartet because he was so disappointed or so upset by the criticism. Was he taken by surprise, their criticism of the incitement?
You're just touching the right point. He was taken by surprise because he's used to consider the European Union always ready to accept his point of view. So, and is used also to consider the European Union as somebody that has, first of all, accepted his point that the 67, what he calls the 67 borders, which are actually the 49 armistice line, as you know, are to be considered precondition to any discussion with Israel, to any peace development with Israel. So Abu Mazen thinks that the European Union will always be on his side when he doesn't go back to speak with Israel about peace unless Israel accepts as a precondition what also the European Union has put down as a precondition, namely the 67 lines. I know that inside the European Union, not everybody thinks the same. I'm sure that Italy, England, of course some of the eastern countries like Poland, they don't share the idea that Israel should go back to the 67 lines as a precondition. They think that the two parts has to sit and discuss. But they always vote together. Why do they do that? Because this is a sort of superstition of the European Union. I would call it like this. This is what Mogherini repeats all the time. She says that the unity of the European Union. Why do they say that? Because the union is not there. So they always have to find a way to and I would dare saying here that actually the only kind of union that they are always ready to repeat and to go back to is the union against Israel. I would call it against Israel. They wouldn't say like this. They would say it's not against Israel, it's pro-peace process. But I say this is not true because, of course, what they are doing here, accepting the conditions of the Palestinians, they avoid the two sides to sit one in front of the other and discuss, according to the UN 242 resolution, the real condition for a peace process.